Well, might be a couple days late on this one, but I am going to review the new Hulu original Predator Killer of Killers, which is going to be filled with spoilers, which, just want to make that out there. Because there is something that was not clear in the trailers. It was hinted at, but it is actually a huge part, so we'll get into that. But overall, here's the non-spoiler part. Overall, this movie is like I think it's like a 7, maybe an 8. Just like, but as a fan, loved it. But as a movie, there are parts where I'm like, overall, it is an anthology, and it is split up into 3 separate parts. It follows a mother and her son during a Viking raid, 2 brothers during, I'm sure, what was the Edo era of the samurai, and a not wannabe, but an aspiring pilot in the final days of World War II. And each story is done pretty well with some impeccable Spider-Verse style animation that actually has each Predator fit within the story that it's being presented at. The Viking one had a predator with a shield, which, the main Viking chick had a shield as well. And of course, the samurai predator was more about, stealth, swords and knives and stuff, which was pretty damn cool as well. And of course, the pilot, which was labeled the Bullet, was a pilot predator. And not all these stories are equal. The samurai one is by far the best, and has very little dialogue, and is done purely through a visual medium. It is phenomenal in its execution. The story beats, the violence, it is all done expertly. But as I said before, not all stories are built equally. The Viking one is pretty good, but the pilot one dragged on a little bit. And overall, this does kind of seem like it was maybe 3 or 4 separate pitches for a movie that was kind of condensed into an anthology, which anthologies do work. Star Wars Clone Wars had proved that. It's just, and when it came to this movie, it felt like there was more that was needed. More that was needed from, the story, and more that was needed in terms of just length. Having this be an hour and like almost 20 minutes, I feel like did a disservice. There could have been more done to help flesh out these worlds and these stories. But overall, I enjoyed myself. I give it, like I said, I left a little disappointed, but because the ending is very much unsatisfying. Not like in a way of, oh, well, what was the point? It's just, oh, it ended. Cool. Now what? But I think as a massive Predator fan and as a massive Prey fan, which, by the way, this is a continuation of Prey, and it's done by it's done by Dan Trachtenberg, who co-directed and co-wrote this movie. And this is, like, don't get me wrong, as harsh as I think I'm treating this movie, this is still probably in the top 3 best Predator movies, just objectively speaking. It is despite how short most of these anthologies are, you care for these characters, you care for their stories because they are still very human. They are great stories on their own. Like, seriously, the Viking one is a tale about revenge that happens to have a predator. Same with the second one, a tale of revenge, just happened to be a predator. The third one, story of an aspiring pilot who wants to do right by his friends and his family. Just happens to have a predator in it. These are all great stories that happen to have predators in it, and then they're still all very good. Now let's get that out of the way. Let me just say this. Wait, before we go into spoilers, go see this movie. It's on Hulu. It's well worth the time in the watch. It's a very quick. It's basically just like a little panache for all the Predator fans before Badlands comes out. This is to help to tie us over because, ever since Prey, there's been like a little bit of debate. Oh, like Dan Trachtenberg has basically been given keys to the Predator Kingdom, just as Fede Alvarez has basically been given keys to the kingdom for Alien, at least movie wise. But will he be able to deliver? Because Prey was actually a surprise hit. And yeah, I can after seeing this movie, I can say, yeah, he definitely knows what he's doing with Predator. And I do think that that franchise is in good hands going forward. That being said, let's get into spoilers. This movie drastically changes things we know about predators. Drastically. It makes some slight alterations to the lore. And let's get into that. So essentially, something they hint at in the trailer, but was never really confirmed, was there is a through line connecting all of these stories. And it turns out after each story ends, we see each main character in what is essentially a prison cell on a predator planet with a collar around their neck, and the camera pans and pushes over to the next character. And essentially, there is a fourth story here. And that fourth story is all of these characters that have killed predators are basically captured by the predators themselves, put into cryostasis, and then sent to the predator planet to essentially fight other stronger predators. Now, this is a change to the lore that I want to say change. Like I said, I did say change, but here's the thing. This was never something that was established in any of the Predator movies. And since Predator has been so fast and loose with the lore since, Predator 2, there's never really been a confirmed workings to how their culture and this world works. So it's a little jarring, to say the least, as a Predator fan, to essentially go from, for example, Danny Glover's character in Predator 2. It's like, he killed a predator and he was let go. Okay, so that means if you kill a predator, that means you're essentially free to do whatever you want. Not really, no. They're gonna take your ass, they're gonna freeze you, and they're basically gonna force you to fight. And yeah, the fourth story is essentially these three characters fighting each other and then coming together and fighting the Bone Lord, who, by the way, is like a 9 foot tall predator with like Queen Xenomorph tails as its cape. It is fucking insane. It is metal. And if you've seen the Predator Badlands trailer, you watch this and you see, sorry about that. I need to get my lighting back up. My apologies. You see the Predator Badlands trailer and you watch this, you can tell that the direction they're kind of taking the Predator franchise into is like pulp sci-fi, like pulp metal, death metal sort of vibe, and it works. It really works. And I didn't specify before, but a lot of the designs for the Predators here work so well. And and like I said, they do make changes to the lore, such as taking people after they've already killed the predator, and also in some of the comics and in some of some fan established lore, predators really don't kill with their ships because it's seen as disgraceful. And we do actually see the predator without his tendrils. And considering what we know about Badlands with the child Yucha, oh, by the way, they really go into that. Now it's no longer a predator; it's Yacha. That is the name of the species. Just as the alien is the xenomorph, here it's the Yacha, and they're gonna do that going forward. They're committed to that idea. So I guess better just as we can't call him Baby Yoda anymore. We have to call him Grogu. So it's one of those situations where it's like, okay, I mean, this was something that was really only in written lore, never spoken, but I guess we're committing to that. And like I said, even with that change to, wait a minute, but predators are usually considered disgraced when they fly, but the guy's all his tendrils move. So it's like, okay, it can still work, I suppose. Like you're disgraced, but you're still a part of the clan. But I know this review's all over the place, but same with this movie, There's a lot that this movie does try and do, and it just doesn't have enough time to do it. And what it is able to do, it does really, really well. You care for these characters and you really want to see them succeed. Like when they're on the Predator planet trying fighting the Bone Lord, you actually do want to see them succeed. They're likable enough to where, you don't want to go, okay, here we go. Come on, are you going to die? Are you going to die? What's going on here? No, you're like, holy shit, come on, older Viking Astrid and Hanzo, whatever the hell your name is. Like, work together, help Torres get on the ship and fly out of there. And I did mention that the ending is unsatisfying, and that's because it is. It ends on a widely open note where the Bone Lord isn't even killed. The what's it called? The old Astrid is captured and then put back into cryo. Meanwhile, Hanzo, I don't know what the samurai's name is. But let's just call him Hanzo. The samurai guy and Torres are on a Predator ship and they fly off trying to escape. And then a Bone Lord's like after them, and then it ends. But not without throwing in, you see, this also spoils Prey because they do something here that was hinted at in Prey. So at the end of Prey, we see Naru, with a dead predator head, and like, I have earned my place in this tribe. And then, of course, the credits roll. But at the end of the initial credits, we see her and her people turn around, look up, and a bunch of predator ships descend. And it's been hinted at since that release that essentially all of her people die and they take her. Now, why am I bringing that up? Because during essentially the final story where all three come together and are forced to fight one another, Torres gets a gun. And it's none other than the gun from Prey and Predator 2. And of course, it's played off as a joke where he's just like, wait a minute, you just said these old weapons were from our time. Instead, you gave me a flintlock pistol. I need I like this ain't even from my time. And of course, he's like trying to fire it. He just doesn't know how to because he wasn't taught how to fire these kind of weapons. And of course, that's like gratuitous fan service to an extent because, of course, that one fucking gun has to be a through line for this entire franchise now. But yeah, why did I bring up Prey? Well, you see, this is their way of, like I said, I'm sorry, I'm a little all over the place with this because this movie is really good. It's just they're now really starting to go into lore stuff with this franchise, and I was just not prepared for it because I was just prepared for one-offs. What that just happened to have a Predator. But why did I bring up everything with Naru? Well, it goes back into what I talked about with these people killing predators and then being taken and frozen. Because at the very, very end of the movie, there was an end credits scene where Astrid, I can't remember her name. I honestly, I wish, like, that's the thing. That's one of those things where I'm like, there no more time was needed because with the exception of Torres, I can't remember these people's names. But that old Viking lady is put into the cryo chamber and is hauled off. The camera pans over and we see no one else but Naru trapped in a cryo tube, basically confirming the fan theory that has been speculated for the last couple of years that, her people have been wiped out and she was taken. And this actually does kind of point towards a possible return for Dutch. We've known for years that Arnold Schwarzenegger has turned down every single possible chance to come back to the franchise because he just felt that there was nothing for his character to do or there was no justification for him to be there. And considering the fact that the Predator, AVP, and AVPR are widely considered by fans and probably by Fox or 20th Century Studios as well as not being canon, there is a very good chance that this could be a new way to include Dutch back in the franchise because, there's never been any real established lore reason as to what happened to him. But seeing Naru at the very end, because all throughout the press release, Amber Midthunder has been there just talking about Prey and like what she wants to do. So this probably could lead This movie essentially is a stepping stone to one, the wider Predator universe, establishing that yes, these beings have been around for hundreds, if not thousands of years hunting humans. And essentially we now know that this world is much bigger than just some singular story on Earth. And I think it is preparing us for Badlands, which is, a story that takes place far across the galaxy. And of course, remember I said that, the Bone Lord has all these like alien queen tails attached. How do you know that? You look at the design of the thing and you're like, oh yeah, that's definitely xenomorph tails. But at this point now, I realize this isn't even review. This is just me rambling about a movie that I have some very conflicted feelings towards. But overall, I'd say those conflicted feelings are positives. So yeah, that's basically been my take on this movie. It's a bit messy, don't get me wrong. But it's not messy in a way where like Justice League was messy. This is messy as just that it's very quick. It's essentially just an appetizer, an hors d'oeuvre before, the main event, which is still Predator Badlands, which doesn't release for about another 5 months. This is mainly just meant to tie us over. Now, I do want to see more of these characters. I do want to know what happens to Naru. I want to know what happens to Torres, the samurai guy, and the Viking lady. Hell, Dutch might very well be there, and I want to know what happens to the Bone Lord. This film doesn't have a resolution. It ends on an open note. So I hope that we get a sequel. I hope we see what happens. I want to know what happens to Naru. I want to know what happens if the Predators have been taking people that have killed their kind. Sorry, if the Yautja have been taking people that have killed their kind over the vast many years that they've been doing this, then is Dutch there? I see this movie as a way to basically close to close open threads that have not been tackled since, Predator 2, or even God forbid, the underrated Predators. As a fan, I love this movie a lot. As an average moviegoer, it's good. Maybe not great, but good. It's worth sitting down on your fat ass, turning on Hulu and watching it. It is a fun time because the violence is worth it.